Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our webinar Wednesday. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about future trends and trends that we're seeing growing on online tools and how we think that you can harness some of these to grow your business internationally in particular. Now, just while the last of you are logging on and registering, let's just perhaps introduce ourselves. So that's where we're going to start today, just introducing ourselves. I'm really pleased to be joined by two of my colleagues, Joelle Lazzarotto, Online Marketing Manager for IBT Online. Joelle will be talking about online tools for marketing in particular, and the new developments for Facebook and all those kind of things as well. Please ask her any questions you like about international online marketing. She is an absolute fount of wisdom and knowledge and experience on this. I'm very delighted that she's joining us today. And I'm also joined by Chris Chavez, Online Business Development Manager. Chris also has lots of experience, particularly in Latin American markets and things. And so again, ask him lots of questions if you want about website localization. And my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer, and I'll be sort of moderating a little bit the webinar and also giving some introductory comments about some of the big trends that we see going on at the moment in the online world. So with that, let's have perhaps just a very quick introduction as well about us as a company. So as a company, IBT Online, we are we've been around since 2002, and we're a US company. We have offices in Florida and in Michigan, and as well across Europe and elsewhere. We are 100% focused on online tools and the international online tools in particular. We are also very proud to have been awarded the President's E Award for Export Services, and which is a recognition of making significant contribution to the expansion of US exports. We run things called the Online Global Programs. These are programs that we've developed with certain US states, as well as actually with some Canadian provinces, to help exporters with online tools, who help exporters get their websites, international websites, and international online marketing. So let us know if you want any more information on that. So without further ado, today's agenda, we're going to sort of start off really talking a little bit about how we think the internet is sort of post-pandemic. What are we seeing as major trends and new influences? Where do we see the internet going as well? 2021, 2022, and what is the last 18 months or 2 years done to online tools? Then a short brief thing about the online environment as it is now and why we think exporters benefit from online business development tools. And then we're going to drill down and talk a bit more about what those tools are, in particular localized websites and online marketing and online international marketing, I should say as well. And finally, takeaways, next steps, Q&A, please drop any questions you have. There's time at the end for this. We'll also do a few little polls, and we would really encourage you to participate with that. So without further ado, thank you all again for attending, and let's dive right in and talk about what we call the Online Accelerator. So this is really, the pandemic has really absolutely turbocharged some of these big trends that we've been seeing. These were all growth trends before 2019. E-commerce was growing. Green was definitely more and more aware of it. AI, artificial intelligence, the use of artificial intelligence for business development, data privacy as well. So all these trends were growing and developing pre-pandemic, but they absolutely got turbocharged during the pandemic. And it really meant that these online tools have become truly ubiquitous, affecting all parts, just not only of our business life, but our personal home life, as you can see, working from home. But it's also sort of driven home this idea of a digital divide. and not just the digital divide between those who have a computer and those who don't, but also those who master online tools and use them effectively. So how are you using your online tools, for example, in your company, and so on. So that's also this notion of sort of digital divide, which we'll explore. So just sort of drilling down in some of the numbers, and I know slide decks shouldn't have too many tables on it, so I don't want to talk about the numbers and such, but just look at some of the direction of travel. You know, if you take sort of Canada, for example, you know, all of these markets, the ones I've listed, US, UK, Singapore, Korea, and Canada, these are all quite, you know, sophisticated, quite mature markets for e-commerce really in some ways. Nevertheless, between 2018 and 2020, they pretty well all doubled or saw, you know, huge increases. Singapore doubled, China and Canada also doubled between those 2 years. And the US, for example, went from 520 to nearly $800 billion worth of e-commerce, sort of a 33% increase. And you know, the big question is that here to stay, or is that now going to sink right back down again, and the growth rate decline as we all go back onto bricks and mortar shopping and doing other things besides ordering things online? Our view is no. Our view is that the early evidence so far coming out of the pandemic is that e-commerce is still double digit in the very mature markets, let alone some of the more growth markets like, you know, places like Thailand, for example, where it's up like 60% this year alone. And I think there are 5 main reasons for this. Convenience, you know, we've all learned how to do this e-commerce, and in fact, it's really, really easy. You know, it's just very handy to get things delivered to your front door. Technical improvements as well have made it a lot easier, a lot friendlier for the user, so that you know, even the elderly are grocery shopping online and having a good time with it. Social media e-commerce is very fast growing. Even newer platforms like TikTok have started social media e-commerce, and that has driven a new wave, it's a new avenue as well for e-commerce. Also, new entrants. There's always new stores coming on with and joining the e-commerce. A lot of them are small, medium-sized stores. And then Amazon. I think Amazon also is driving e-commerce. You know, Amazon now has over 40% of the market share in the U.S. for e-commerce alone, which is pretty phenomenal. The number 2, I think, is Walmart with about 6.5%. So the huge gap between Amazon and stuff. And Amazon just makes it all so easy. You know, we've all gotten used to same day, next day delivery and easy refunds and so on. So again, we think that these are trends that are making e-commerce continue to rise. And the first indications we have post-pandemic is that it's about a plus 14% increase sort of rhythm at the moment in the US, for example. Again, lots of slides and lots of figures on this current slide, and I just really want to just show you the direction of travel. I mean, you look at the one for Zoom. You know, basically went from pretty much near zero in the first quarter 2019 to over $1 billion by 2021, and the forecast is for continued growth on that, and similar accelerations that you see in co-working spaces, and forecasts for co-working spaces out to 2024. So these are trends that really got turbocharged, as I said, from the pandemic. You know, exponential growth at that point, and don't seem to be slowing down particularly. These are trends that are here to stay, and this work from anywhere, this WFA, I mean, there's a lot of studies now coming out on it about how companies are embracing this, and in fact, a lot of workers seem to quite like it. There's sort of, you know, what's called hybrid remote work as well. You know, 20-25% of workers in advanced economies are now doing so-called hybrid work as well. So very much a thing that's here to stay. And some of the companies, talked about the digital divide earlier, companies who have embraced this and moved forward with it quickly and sort of ride the tide, or ride the wave of it, and others than not. So this is a company, for example, called ASI, Advanced Super Abrasives, the US company. And I've left some quotes on the slide, just sort of really emphasizing and said very, very clearly, you know, we're a B2B company. We make you know, grinding wheels for anything from the metal industry to the wood industry and so on. 75% of our business was face-to-face. You know, our salesmen would go around, knock on the door, go to the factories, face-to-face meeting, and sell products. You know, the pandemic meant we couldn't do that anymore. And they were very quick to respond and said, right, websites, online tools, online marketing. And in fact, they've you know, really said, you know, this what he called the website globalization is so important as a new way of doing business. So we'll have more examples and case studies as we go further. I want to highlight this one as a company who has ridden that wave very quickly, responded very quickly, and taken advantage of some of those big trends for its internationalization. One of the other trends we talked about was data. The combination of data with AI and machine learning has really highlighted value. And so many companies are now embracing data analysis, and AI and incorporating that into the sales process in particular, as well as the manufacturing process. It's really, I think, something that we're going to see more and more of. And I think that the record profitability you've seen in the big tech companies, the tech giants, people like Alphabet and Microsoft and so on, a lot of that has come from harnessing data and AI in particular. We talked obviously about green. There's a lot of greenwashing, such, and you know, the green is definitely here to stay as well. And we are already seeing that it is influencing the way people act, the way they fly, whether they take airplanes or not. All these things will continue, we think, to have major impacts on that. If you have an interest in what, for example, a website, CO2e, what is your carbon footprint with a website versus carbon footprint with, you know, a trade show, let us know. We've done some work on that. Right, so those are some of the big trends we call that sort of accelerator, that pandemic accelerator that's moved those trends so fast along the way. We wanted to look now about sort of the why as well, sort of, you know, why we think it's really important for companies and exporters in particular to get the right kind of online development tools. And in this slide, I wanted to highlight just sort of, again, how many people are now on the web and what they're doing on it. So in July 2019, there were about 4.3 billion people on the planet on the internet, and the average time spent was just not quite 6 hours a day. In July 2021, it's 4.8 billion people, and they're spending nearly 7 hours a day. So that's actually worth thinking about. 4.8 billion people spending 7 hours every day online. That's quite something. And so this is again a show of how ubiquitous the internet has become, and how much, you know, that you can really reach, and that everyone is doing, in a sense, the world is we're all doing the same thing, whether you're in, you know, the middle of I don't know, Boston, or the middle of the Tibetan plateau. You're trying to get online. You are online, and you are spending your time on online platforms. And one of the big things you're doing online, of course, is communicating. And I think these numbers are even more startling in a sense. July 2019, 3.5 billion people were using social media. 2 years later, July 2021, 1 billion more people have joined social media. And that has been over the last 11 months, basically. It's really, really been totally pandemic fueled. So, we said 4.8 billion people are online, 4.5 of them are on social media. So these are amazing numbers. They are all on different platforms. They're on different ways, depending on their markets, depending on what their interests are. But there's a tremendous way of communicating now with people on that. We work with a lot of B2B companies as well, and sometimes, to be honest, they can be a little bit behind the curve. I showed you ASI earlier, who are not behind the curve, but sometimes the B2B companies can be a little bit reluctant to go and use really state-of-the-art, really top websites and online marketing. They say, "Oh no, we're an engineering company. Our products are so brilliant, they sell themselves." But I think really that ship has sailed. I mean, I think now it's no longer the case. I think all companies need to have the right kinds of online tools. This gets back to our notion of a sort of digital divide of companies that can have online tools that make them more profitable, make them more that have better lead generation, and then companies that use and harness the technologies that are now available for them, especially to go international. So I mean, here's some quotes. Almost all B2B purchases are researched before contacting a sales rep or distributor. 70% of searches start with a generic search, CRM software, rather than a search for a specific brand. So again, this means that your websites have to be optimized, your business tools have to be very, very functional, on trend. So just if we sort of summed up then and said why we think it's so important for exporters and for companies in general, but especially for exporters and want to go international, why we think you need online business development tools is because the world seems more online than ever. And we don't think that's going away. We think, in fact, that's increasing. Those trends are not stopping that growth. And if you're a company, I think then it's important to embrace this and say that's actually good news. This is good news. You know where your clients, your prospects, your future prospects, your future employers, you know where they are. They're all online, and you can reach them through online marketing and through your website. So that's why we think it's really important to have these very strong, effective online business development tools for that. And before I pass on the microphone to Chris to tell us a little bit more about those localized websites, let me ask you, this is going to be a little poll that we're going to do. I want to ask you all, is your company planning to participate in international trade shows in the next 12 months? And there's a reason why I'm asking this question. One, because we wanted to have some kind of feedback about how much travel and international travel you're all planning to do. And the second reason is because we're gathering information and surveys on international trade shows at the moment. We have a webinar in 2 weeks' time about online tools for international trade shows and how to optimize your trade shows in particular. So right, that poll says, yes, more trade shows than the pre-pandemic. Yes, we're going to travel, but fewer, more selective. Not sure yet, and simply no. And just to let you know, the vast majority of you are not sure yet. And several of you are saying no more international. And the next runner-up, though, is fewer international trade shows. So it looks to us as though fewer international trade shows is the way it's going to be. But you can tune in on that as well, if you like, in our next webinar in 2 weeks' time. I'm going to now pass over to Chris to talk a little bit about online business development tools for exporters and localized websites. Chris.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Susanna. And hi, everyone. Good morning. So as Susanna mentioned, my name is Chris, and I'm a business development manager at IBT, specializing in our online global programs. So we'll go ahead and get started by looking at some of the most important online tools a business needs today, more specifically best practice localized websites with an international focus. So when we look at our core online business development tools, we tend to divide online tools into two interrelated pieces. So the first one being your website, whether it be B2B, B2C, B2G, with or without commerce, and the second being online marketing. So in that we include search engine and social media marketing as well. So of course there was a time where it was just okay to have just a basic core domestic website and make sure your webmaster optimized it every now and then, sort of like an annual spring clean for the search engine. It was enough to publish a blog just once a year to get top ranked on page one. But now that everyone has a website, things are a little bit more competitive. And over the last 2 years or so, it has become even more competitive. So you still need a good core website, and you still need regularly updated SEO. But now the SEO has to be checked and freshened up. So a blog a year no longer cuts it. You need your regular online marketing, such as social media outreach campaigns, to make sure you are found, understood, and do business both in the US and internationally as well. So in practice, we have an example here of kind of what it could look like. So your US domestic website can have its own communication policy surrounding it. So that includes, of course, SEO and social media to draw in the clients and prospects into your US website itself. And for your international clients and prospects, you need a similar online environment or something we like to call digital real estate. So for example, let's say you're targeting the French market, which we have here, and the Brazilian markets. Then those also need a dedicated localized website. And this website acts like a springboard or a sounding board for your communications. It can feed back all to your US website, and it certainly should be linked as well. So of course, brand consistency is very important. So your French or Brazil website should look and feel the same as your US website, but it's localized for those markets specifically. So then your online communications can be effective in those markets and reach those clients in those international markets as well. So as a takeaway, again, just make sure that you have the localized websites first, that piece of digital real estate, and then the online marketing. So again, the website acts as that real estate with clear goals, buyer journey mapping, all the metrics, and all the other essentials we'll be talking about. So a question that many people might have is, why can't I just use my website to go global? So for example, you might think that you can just go ahead and add a couple foreign language pages, maybe one of those Google Translates as well, and surely the search will do the rest. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So search engines, and here I've taken a global leader, Google, but the same applies to others like Yandex, Bing, Baidu, and these days actually even YouTube, Amazon, and Facebook are all relatively used as search engines as well. They're all searcher-centric. So Google itself actually has 192 country/regional specific search engines. So if your couple of additional pages that you add to your website are not extremely highly relevant to your target audience, well, you're pretty much invisible in those target markets. So say you're targeting in the German market, well, your searcher in the German market will likely be using google.de and search in German, want to see measurements and metric, etc. So think of search engines like Google as lots of different country-specific localized search engines, and that's the way we look at it when we look at localization. So on the next one, we have a great practical example of how country-specific Googles produce results that are relevant to each specific user. So for an example here that we have, so Susanna, who's in the UK, and our coworker Adrian, who's based out of Miami, both have dogs that love to play in the background whenever we have webinars, it seems like. So we both search, or we had them both search for squeakless dog toys. So logically, Google provided results that were relevant to each user. So of course, as you can see here, the ones that Adrian got specifically in Miami were for example, Chewy.com, Amazon.com, and Yahoo, with very relevant pieces of content with that specifically. As Susanna, however, got things that I've never heard of, such as barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpaws.co.uk, and even Amazon.co.uk. So the same search on different Google search engines gave us really different results that were searcher-centric again, and really localized to that region that they were based out of. So on top of that, you also need to understand your buyer persona and their language to be relevant. So here we have another example, for example, the word car in Spanish in two ways. So two ways that you can say it are auto and coche. So for example, if you're a company that sells parts or trinkets for cars and you're selling into Mexico, you need to make sure that you're using auto in your translation instead of coche, because only 27% use coche versus the more popular auto. On the other hand, if you're looking to sell into Spain, you definitely need to use coche on your website and social media, because that's the word that they use to search for cars. So again, it really does come down to the vernacular, making sure that you have the correct keywords, and again, the same language as well. So we have a great example of a localized website and how they work here. So these are, here you have a website that's targeting prospects in Mexico specifically. So it is on a .mx hosted in Mexico with SEO for the Mexican market. So as you can see, the results for 1 month on this B2B site shows that the majority of traffic, so about 87%, is from their target market of Mexico. Not only that, but 98% comes from Mexico, Chile, and Colombia combined, showing you how Google thinks that this website is relevant mainly for the Mexican market, but is also relevant for the other neighboring Spanish-speaking countries of Chile and Colombia. So the image on the right is actually a great example of how you can even target a specific area, a city, or neighborhood. And the reason that this happens is because of that searcher-centric account, because of how the search engines work, and providing that very relevant contents to the target audience. All right, and now keep in mind that translation and keyword research is only one aspect of having a localized site. So here we have a few other aspects. So of course, in order for search engines to find you, you need to make it as easy as possible for it to realize that your website is for that specific market. For example, Google has again a search index of hundreds of billions of pages that it needs to comb through to figure out what is most relevant to the searcher. And to make it easier on Google, you need to localize your website and marketing. This includes things such as hosting within the target market, registering domain names, and making sure it's compliant to their standards, among a few other factors. So to this effect, IBT Online and our state partners have partnered together to deliver these online global programs, which have been carefully designed and show measurable success in helping you get found, be understood, and easy to do business with, by again, just understanding and adapting to those international buyers and their journeys specifically. The goal of the program is simple: to create a sales funnel and drive top line revenue, grow your exports, sales, brand, and business online in your target markets. All right, so I will go ahead and hand it over to Joelle to talk a little bit more about online marketing. So really the supplement to that digital real estate that we like to call it, which again does help bring the traffic conversions and engagement to your local state.
Chris and Joelle, before you launch into marketing, can I launch another poll, please? We've actually had a couple of questions in as well, so it's interesting which we'll circle back with. But we just want to know if any of you would like to learn more about the online global programs, about website localization, what that means. Chris had that nice little slide with the 10 sort of criteria of defining. But if you'd like to learn more about it, let us know. We can circle back to you later and give you more information about the online programs and the websites as well. Thank you for that very enthusiastic response from that. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it very much. So I'm going to close this poll. Where's my mouse? Here it is. I'm going to close this poll, and I think we're going to hand back to Joelle to talk about online marketing.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Susanna. Thank you very much, Chris. Well, I couldn't start talking about marketing without addressing maybe a couple of, the big changes that we've had over the past few months. We looked earlier with Susanna some of the Accelerator, what has changed in the marketing in the online realm. There have been a number of important changes recently, but marketing were no less involved. So starting with Apple, this year Apple gave marketers a bit of a headache when they released the new iOS 15, I have to admit, because these included, Apple's privacy changes, including stuff like hide my email and private relay. These are very important to the user, and as we said, the user comes first, and this is something that we'll see in marketing a little bit later on as well. But for those of you who might not be maybe too familiar with it, for example, hide my email feature is really just an upgraded version of the already existing capability that allows Apple users to create a randomized email address every time they register with an app or a website. This means that any emails that then accompany, through your CRM, through your marketing efforts, sent to those new addresses will then be automatically forwarded to a personal email account. So whilst this feature allows you to continue that one-to-one communication with the user, with your prospect, with your customers, this actually prevents tracking the same consumer across different platforms. So from a marketing standpoint, it takes away some of that data and some of that insights we had on how people react to our marketing, how people want to be marketed to. So what does it mean for us as marketeers? What does it mean for us as companies trying to market to individual? Well, this means that, again, as I said, we're no longer able to use third-party data from other sources like Facebook, etc., because this is eventually going to be blocked. And this makes opt-ins more valuable and may then complicate what is already sometimes a strained effort to reach targeted users on iPhone. If you've done any marketing through third parties, remarketing is a very powerful tool, but this kind of privacy protecting, which is great for the user, makes the marketer's life a little bit harder. So whilst Apple turning off all of these signals and going more privacy centric is more important, makes it more important for brands to get the data back from the consumers themselves. We can no longer get it from the platform, so we need to have feedback directly from consumers. And this means that to entice people to share their personal information, we just need to offer something valuable in return. We can gather information about purchase intent and consumer preferences through maybe a survey that offers a discount or a chance to win a sweepstake. So this really means that by collecting information directly, you will be able to continue to have a basis for that one-to-one connection with consumer, also respecting the privacy, but it will make your marketing funnel a little bit more complicated. The other change that we've seen a little bit more recently was the big change from Facebook to Meta. So you might have heard, whilst Facebook, the social media network itself will remain Facebook, the overarching company that created is now called Meta. So what used to be called Facebook Incorporated, Facebook Inc., is changing its name really in order to distinguish the myriad of parts of the social network. So we have Facebook, but also they own and manage a number of other brands that were all seen under Facebook. And we all know, we've heard, Facebook has had a bit of a tough time in terms of the poor reputation that's pretty much everywhere been tarnished by different events. I'm not suggesting we're going into that now, but the change to Meta is an important change. And this is, not necessarily linked to Facebook itself as a platform. Facebook brands has been, as we said, questioned, but we know that, a lot of businesses have been using Facebook, are still using Facebook, is a really good platform to reach users. So this is important to keep in mind. Marketers and stakeholders continue to invest with confidence and have actually seen results through Facebook marketing. However, what this means for us, marketing advertisers, companies alike, with Meta this is a signal that is becoming more and more important to have what we call rich data, providing insights into not only who people are, so who your customers are in terms of demographics, but also what they do, and perhaps more importantly, the why that is driving their decision. What is that thing that makes them tick? And just like mobile, a decade ago now, even longer, this so-called metaverse, and hence where the meta coming from, really represents the next massive opportunity we feel for brands to engage with consumers in new ways. Gone are the days of relying on traditional demographics, so looking at how old they are, where do they live, where does your customer search for products. Behavior-based audiences are unfortunately out the window for target displays, or will soon be, not quite just yet. But the meta brands here really represent the need to leverage predictive and contextual audiences, contextual marketing, rooted in what Facebook themselves and other leading industry thought leaders have called a cognitive psychologist, going beyond that age and gender, speaking to the hearts and minds of individual, really trying to provoke that response to understand what makes them tick, and all of that can be done in a variety of ways. And this really just brings me back to that idea that we've seen the shift, not only marketing, but website localization, as Chris mentioned. Everything needs to be customer centric. We used to look at the company, we used to look, who are we, what is our product, how do we communicate that? Now everything has to move, and has moved a lot more towards the customer. Who are they? How do they want to be communicated? What problem am I solving with my product that they have and they might be interested in? So you might be producing the best widgets in the world, but if you're not communicating that correctly to your customer, using the right message on search engines, social media, or really any other media, you will not be found, you will not be understood. So for all things online, you need to remember to always put your customer at the center of anything you do. And this is essentially what we mean when we talk about a localized presence, whether that's for your website, your marketing program, or your marketing strategy, or any e-commerce websites that you build. So we talk about customer centric, and here customer is the key. But who are your customers? So we like to talk about a buyer persona. So what is a buyer persona then? So a buyer persona, as HubSpot themselves define it, is a fictional representation of your ideal customers, which is based on demographic information, but also real data that you already have about your existing customers. What is important to note here, however, is that your international buyer persona can very often differ from your domestic persona. And then you will also, and you probably should have, more than one buyer persona for your business. So in these slides, I've just put some questions that you can start asking yourself. For example, are there multiple buyer persona in my market? Should I treat distributors as a buyer persona? How does my international buyer persona find me? What is the journey? How are they different? So here I also wanted to bring some examples in the images here from L'Oreal. They are frequently cited for how spot on they are with their international marketing. So here we have L'Oreal in the US, women top floor of modern city building, empowered, in charge, very diverse environment. If you look at L'Oreal Mexico as the next example, here we see an office environment that is a little bit more relaxed, is one that includes both men and women making decisions together, collaborating, working in that kind of slightly different environment. And this to me is interesting because compared to the US, and even to the next example, we'll show you in Brazil, this is the only one with men in the picture. But here we have L'Oreal Brazil, as I mentioned. Again, looks pretty different from the other ones. Again, we have strong women in leadership roles in a very modern setting. But look at the background. Here you can tell they're in Brazil based on the water, the mountain. And this is what L'Oreal know their buyer persona, the local customers will reflect themselves into, they will recognize themselves into. And the messaging also here is different. So here they've been saying they've been innovative for the past 60 years, sharing beauty to with all Brazilians, so very inclusive, which is a message that's going to be very important to them. And my point here is each buyer persona for them is clearly different, clearly defined, and the messaging and their imagery is always respectful of that as well. I've mentioned customers and I've also mentioned distributors. So a buyer persona, could well be different parts of your business. So don't forget that distributors could be part of or one of your buyer persona. So in this example, we just wanted to demonstrate how a company used localized websites to change the business model slightly. So Bullman Product is a company that does business in multiple markets, very diverse between them, and in a ton of different distributors across Europe, the Middle East, Asia, the US, North America, and they sell hundreds of products. But they have a problem, and that they managed to solve through localized websites. Firstly, they didn't like the fact that international customers would buy the products directly through the distributor's website. So they had really not much brand exposure. Their customers knew the product, but didn't necessarily know Bowman product as a brand. So using Localized website, customers are now able to find Bowman products online. They see the website, they engage with the content, they get to know about the brand and everything that stands behind those products. And then they find out who the respective and the local distributor is on the website, allowing Bowman to know who the customers are and allowing the customers to get to know them. But this also means that the company retains some link and some visibility on the client end. So not just for the distributor, but at the same time, these websites are a fantastic vessel for distributor leads. So through these international websites, they've given the distributor more visibility. So on that buyer persona, these websites are allowing them to really cater for both the customers and the distributors at the same time. On the next slide, I just wanted to share, oh, sorry, I just skipped a bit there. We have a video of Bowman if you want on our website, but I just wanted, conscious of time, to move on to another great example, I think, of how different buyer personas can interact with a social media campaign and why it's important that before you do anything on social media or online marketing in general, you get to know them. So here an example from Facebook. So I've taken a Facebook campaigns that we have been running for a client of ours. So we're promoting the same product across, here we have Mexico and the UK. And in this case, we can see obviously same product, but slightly different imagery and messaging changes to make sure they would reflect the localization and provide the right local user experience. But if we took the results for this specific post, we had about 1,200 engagements for the UK, and we were thrilled. But then we looked at the Mexico campaign, and we were blown away with over 20,000 engagement for the same campaign. So if we stood back and stopped the analysis at this point, we could just infer that our Mexico campaign performed a lot better, right? Well, not necessarily. If we dive a little bit deeper in the data, here we can see, again, the same data, but a little bit further down the funnel. So here we see, for example, for Mexico, if you look at the blue and the red, the engagement on social media, we had a much more success. But then if you look at the yellow and the green, which is representing users that have then gone on to purchase or request a quote and gone on to talk to the distributors, the conversion rate is not that different, it's not that dissimilar. And this for us is very important to understand that we know in Latin America, we have a buyer persona that engages super easily on social media. They give you the like, they give you the click, they go into the website. But then to achieve the same level of conversion rate from sales that we do in the UK, we need to ensure that we have that level of engagement, meaning that we know that in the UK, our buyer persona might be a little bit frosty. They don't quite give you that like or that engagement just as easily, but then they still go onto your website. They are very loyal to the brand and they will continue purchasing. So again, just make sure your buyer persona and getting to know how they react and how they behave is so important to make sure that you can then analyze your campaign and really optimize accordingly to how you know they're going to react. We talked about Facebook. We always talk about social media, but here I just wanted to answer a question. I can hear some of you already asking yourselves, and we get asked a lot, why do I need a social media strategy? Is it worth my time? Surely that is just posting some content. In my view, social media strategy is a big yes, but it has to be done properly. So social media is a super powerful tool because it really allows you to build brand awareness, connect with your audiences, and really make sure that you can, find them in a way, time, and the place when they're active and they're ready to be engaged. Social media is actually one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audiences. As Sprout Social reported, when a consumer follows a brand on social media, whether that is on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, depending on the brand, depending on your buyer persona, 67% of consumers are actually more likely to spend more with that brand because they're engaged with the content. And 78% say that they will then visit the brand physical retail location as a result of following them on social media. This really is a powerful, demonstration that social media helps you attract your buyers to your products and services, also helps you remain engaged, showing them the value of your brand and continue supporting them in the buyer's journey from research to consideration to then helping them purchase when they are ready. And what is so exciting also about social media marketing is that it really has leveled the playing field for all brands to get visibility and engagement, regardless of your size or your industry or who you're trying to reach. So think about the fact that, for example, Click & Curl, a 10-person beauty company in the Midwest, is able to post their social media advertising, the social media post right after someone like Dior, an international powerhouse with hundreds of millions of marketing budget. And that's crazy. So in all other past forms of marketing, something like that would never have been possible. So social media really has kind of changed everything. And this is why digital marketing is becoming so exciting and so important for all companies that are looking to really grow their presence domestically, but more so internationally. And when I say that social media has to be done right, unfortunately, there is a bit of a dry side to it. It's not all fun, likes and engagements, but I always want to stress the fact that there is a crucial piece to every social media promotion, and is aligning your social strategy to your business objectives. If you start posting on social media without really knowing what you're trying to achieve, you might be disappointed by the results. You might not be able to track it. So when designing your marketing strategy, is very important to always be aligned with what you're trying to achieve as a business. This will also give you the starting point to decide what you want to achieve, and then consequently how you're going to monitor this, how you're going to track it, and what metrics are important for you. As with your business goals, I'm sure you've heard of this, your social media goals should be SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And here I've just taken an example, again, social media, I've taken Facebook, just to show you how within a singular platforms, you can already tailor your activities to the goals and the overall objectives of your business. So whether you want to grow your brand, you want to drive leads, you want to improve customer retention, all of this is achievable, but the tactics and the metrics you need to track might be slightly different. So be careful when starting your social media strategy. And here I just wanted to show a couple of examples of some of the work that we've done through social media and digital marketing in general. Here an example of one of our clients, AMSOIL, who has, for example, a dedicated website for the Latin American market. And here they have all of the distributors listed for all of the different countries that they serve. The marketing efforts we were supporting them with spanned through search engine optimization, social media, search engine marketing. But social media marketing has been very, very powerful, as we've seen in the example below, with the engagement. We know that they are very active on social media, and we know that that's a fantastic way to drive positive results to the website and then give the distributor that visibility and that click-through that they need to continue engage with AMSOIL's customers, new and existing. So the websites have several call to actions for users to check where they can purchase the products, and then when they get to the list of the distributors in their own country, they can reach out to them directly. And what's great about this is that we are able to provide AMSOIL with clear data of how many people are clicking on what distributors, what's being more popular, how do they get to that page, how have they found the website. So distributors are very happy with the strategy as we're driving business to them, and AMSOIL are happy with the strategy because we can track who is engaging with the website and how they're reaching the distributors, how they're finding us. So they get some data and the distributors get the leads. Another great way of using social media is actually to promote your content. Here again, AMSOIL, Latin America, we have through the website, we write, localize, and then promote monthly blogs that really span from a very general, how-to blogs, to product highlights, to interviews with the distributors. And all of this content is then created and promoted through the social media channels. And this really allows users to find the content, go to the website, they read the blog, and that gives some exposure to the brand. But also we have products, we have call to actions. It's a nice organic way to allow new users that are not familiar with the brand to find the website and start navigating it, but also for existing customers to continue remain engaged with new content, new information, again, with that idea of being helpful, providing valuable content. As we said earlier with Apple, this is going to be more and more important as we move forward. Get the get your users, get your prospect to trust you, build that relationship, and they'll come back time and time again. And in the next slides, before I just give a little bit of a roundup in terms of everything we've discussed, I really just wanted to highlight parts of our online global marketing programs, which, as we've seen, are built around 3 main pillars. So we have search engine marketing, social media marketing, reporting and analytics, really building that fast and very cost-effective way to build your brand, build traffic, engagement, and conversions in your target market. So here we have some example of a client of ours again that are going in the Latin American market, and they're also targeting the Middle East. So we don't have any Arabic examples here, but very much tailoring the messaging, tailoring the imagery, and tailoring the strategy to the marketing, to the markets, sorry, that you're trying to either enter or improve, or really where you want to be found and where you want to grow your brand sales and eventually your exports into. And just before I hand back over to Susanna, I just wanted to give a quick round of online marketing best practices and what to keep in mind when thinking about your online marketing. Start with a localized website. As Chris defined it, this is your local springboard. Bring people back to it. Get to know your audience. Absolutely key. Get to know your buyer persona, how they engage, and what the buyer's journey looks like. Choose which platforms are worth your resources. This very much will depend on your market, but also your buyer persona, your industry. My advice is always start small, master 1 or 2, and then expand as you see the results and as you start tracking how your users are engaging with your messaging and with your website. Always set your goal for your social media strategy. This is an unfortunate mistake we see happen time and time again, where we start working with a company and they've tried and they think they failed on the social media marketing, but simply because they didn't have a clear idea of what they were trying to achieve. Answer all comments and mentions. I've not quite mentioned this before, but social media is a two-way marketing strategy. If you get people to engage with you, make sure you engage with them. If they comment, if they mention you, if they send you a message, make sure you get back to them and show them that kind of love back as they've engaged with you. Look, analyze, keep learning. Again, make sure you know what you're trying to achieve, continue tracking your data, and then don't stop. As I say, optimize, change, learn, don't stop, keep going, and you'll see the results will come through.
So Al, thank you for that tour of online marketing and the new developments that we're seeing and the need for improved content. It's all about the content, isn't it? Before we round some questions, I thought I'd launch my last poll. This last one, promise. Just if any of you would like to learn more about the online marketing side, we also have the online global programs for online marketing. Please let us know. We can circle back to you at that point. And again, thank you for that very enthusiastic response. You always appreciate it. And we have a lot of information about specific markets. We can ask you sort of, if you're interested particularly about China, the Arab markets, the Canadian market, the Latin American markets, or the US market, or European markets. So just let us know and we'll circle back to you. I'm going to close that poll. I think we have a few minutes left on our clock for some questions, and some questions have come in. My mouse is not working well today, but there we go. Just sort of summarizing our sort of the takeaways. If you're going to take something away from this webinar today, we would like to today basically, I don't really like the expression the new online normal, but for lack of a better word, we do think that these trends on the online, online has never been more important than it is post this pandemic. These trends have really been turbocharged and are now really ubiquitous. And companies need to grasp that and take advantage of them. And that way you can grow your business, and particularly your international business so well. So just remember to be found and properly understood, and therefore to do business properly. and build the trust that you need for that buyer's journey. Online tools are there and can optimize your sales channel. I guess in terms of next steps, it's really just very simple. Make the internet work for you. Please take advantage of any of the resources we have, a lot on our website, and also the webinars that we put up. And get your teams together and say, is this right for our company? Should we be having these? What are our online tools? Do we have the right ones? And such. So with that, I'm going to launch a couple of questions that will come in, sort of fire them at Joelle and Chris, and I'll answer a few myself as well. Just Chris, first of all, these online global programs that you talk about, where can I find out more about them? Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find out more about them on ibt.onl. So we do have a little bit more about our online programs, or you can feel free to contact really any of us. If you'd like to go ahead and contact me as well, my email is there, cc@ibt.onl, and I'd feel definitely I could set up a meeting and talk a little bit more about the programs.
Thank you, Chris. And Joelle, we're a B2B company, so we've never used Facebook. Is it really a viable platform for B2B companies?
I would say yes, but the answer really lies in who your buyer persona is. So it really depends. It's difficult to say. B2B can definitely leverage Facebook, is something that we've seen. It really depends on your market as well. So what international markets you are marketing into, who your buyer persona is, who you're trying to reach. So I would say starting from that kind of research will really tell you a little bit more whether or how much to invest into Facebook. But the short answer is strong yes from me.
Okay, and maybe Joelle, just while you're there, if each website is a separate unit, do you have to have separate marketing strategies for each website?
I know the person that's asked this question is not going to like it, but probably yes. And the answer and the reason behind it is, again, it all goes back to who your buyer persona is, how do they differ in the different markets, what is the language behind them, how do they engage with what platform they're using. You might see that once you start doing the research and you define each of the buyer persona for the different markets, then there are synergies and you can leverage a lot of the same tactics. But I would always step back and think about who am I trying to reach, and then start from there instead.
Okay. There's an interesting one that's also just popped up, which is if you have international websites, does it detract from your domestic website? I guess we're wondering as well, if Google sees two or several of your brands, does that detract in any way? And the answer is a clear no. In fact, it can increase your domain authority. And we always recommend that you link and interlink the websites, for example, just even with the flag that links them between them, it raises the domain authority for that. We have pretty well come to the end of our clock. We promised to get you in under an hour. So I wanted to thank Joelle and Chris for joining me today and giving such a great presentation. Several of you have asked if you're going to get the presentation in your inboxes. Yes, you will. And we have a tiny, tiny, tiny short survey just after the ending of this webinar. We do hope to see you at our next webinar about international trade shows and e-commerce and online marketing. We have quite a few lined up next month. And a big, big thank you all. We realize that you all got busy days, so we always appreciate if you could take some time out and share and spend some time with us. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of the week, and keep on trading. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.